Tori, please remember that this is none of your business. I do not mean this harshly. I understand your friend wants you to be involved in her wedding and to serve as a mediator between her parents and the Blazings. That is not your role. You are in school. Study. Learn. That being said, they do get along, which is why you were not punished or reprimanded in any way for traveling through the otherworld last summer. As far as you and your friends are concerned, Potsdam has granted far more liberties towards you and your friends than other students. I don't know why, but I don't want to have to spend a second longer trying to figure out how that wretched woman thinks a second longer than I have to. Don't give her a reason to look your way. Hopefully, all will go as planned and we can celebrate your graduation and our new anniversary date in short order. I will see you shortly for our mandated Valentine's Day activities. Be thankful you do not have to spend another year sorting through love letters and student drivel. I, for one, am glad that the only love letters I will henceforth receive are from your address. I miss you. Yours always, -H. I can't help but grin as I put down the letter. Even when he was reprimanding me in his letters, I still understood that he meant it kindly. He didn't want me to get into trouble. He wanted me to graduate. Keeping my nose in my own business was probably invaluable advice for my future career as a noble, and as much as Virginia would be loath to hear it, I figured it would probably be best to tell her that I opted out of any and all wedding plans from here on out. Tori? There's a knock on the door, and I'm surprised to see Virginia poke her head inside. Oh, good, you're in here. Why are you knocking on your own door? I ask her. You live here too. There are some people I want you to meet, Virginia says. It looks like she's showered, and I suddenly realize she's wearing her clean robes, the ones she reserves for when her parents come to visit. Family members? I ask cautiously, but Virginia just shakes her head. Just come with me, she says. They really want to meet you. Realizing that now was the worst time to tell her I was backing out of the wedding plans, I shut my mouth and follow her out. We head across campus to the building where the staff members lived. For a moment, I was wondering if Potsdam had decided to give me the old room I shared with Hieronymous back after all, when Virginia turns a hard left and leads me to one of the rooms reserved for staff meetings. I had never been inside, but it was a lot nicer than I thought it would be. There was a large conference table set up along one side of the room, surrounded by swivel chairs. On the left side of the room, along the wall adjacent to the door, were a few plush couches arranged around a low table. It's there that I see two men dressed in crisp black suits. They appear almost identical, and for a moment, I almost wonder if they're twins. They both have short black hair, although one of the men's eyes is blue, and the other's is a distinct green that almost seems a bit unnatural. They both stand as I walk in, appraising me, and I can feel myself immediately shift from the role of a student into that of a noble viscountess. Lady Grabiner, one of the men says as they perform a quick bow, it is a pleasure to formally make your introduction. I am James Blazing, and this is my partner, Oliver. A pleasure, Oliver adds. Greetings, I say as I perform a humble curtsy in my robes. It is a pleasure to meet you both as well. You may address me as Tori, if you would like, since I can assume you are here on business concerning your son's upcoming wedding. James smiles. That's right. Thank you, Virginia. You can go back to studying now. See you later, Virginia says as she makes a quick exit, and they gesture for me to have a seat. I do so, sitting on the couch opposite them. Before we talk about the wedding, we just wanted to ask how you are, if that's not too forward, Oliver says. We have heard so many stories about you. We feel as though we know you already. I can't help but blush. I believe we may have informally met once before, I tell him, at the Danson's house party, the summer before last. Jacob told me that you opposed the way Jenny turned a social call into an interrogation. Oh, we did, Oliver replies. Still do, James adds. But please understand that it's not her fault, Oliver continues. There are many more powerful families in the magical community than us, Tori. I can believe that, I say simply. The Dansons seem to be devoted to social connection. Appeasement does seem to be one of the least demanding ways of achieving this, aside from flattery, of course. Both James and Oliver roll their eyes towards each other. We have only met Professor Grabiner a handful of times, but you're very much his wife, James says. A smug smile pulls at the corners of my lips, but I try not to let it show. Secretly, I couldn't help but love when people compared me to Hieronymous. He was smart and educated and powerful, and moreover, people did not mess with him. If they thought we were anything alike, hopefully they wouldn't try to manipulate me either. He is much more clever than I say simply, but that is high praise and I accept the compliment. I don't know if you know this, Oliver begins, but we are intimately connected in another way as well. I trust that you still wear the amulet Hieronymous gave you for Christmas a few years ago? My eyes go wide as I clutch at the stone through my robes. Did Jacob tell you about that? Lord Grabiner procured it from us, James explains. We dabble in a lot of rare magical artifacts. When we heard that he was in search of one, we weren't sure what to think. I am sure you are now well acquainted with the story that the amulet connects two soulmates. As such, it is not a trinket that you pass on to someone with whom you intend to end a relationship. Due to their nature, there are only 4 still in existence. My eyebrows shoot up in surprise. I can't imagine how much something like that must cost, but moreover, I still remember how Hieronymous had told me he was going to schedule the severance when I woke up after our duel with Damien. Even if he had ended the marriage, we still would have been bonded. Virginia had already told me the first day he gave it to me that the stone would only have worked if we were really in love with each other. Even though I had questioned our relationship a great deal, especially in the early months of our marriage, wasn't this a sign that we were meant to be together? I am grateful for it, I say, massaging the stone through my robes, especially now. It has served me well in the past, but I don't think I need to tell you that it is especially useful now, with Lord Grabiner abroad. Only a few more months to graduation, James reminds me. Jacob is looking forward to it as well. He was quite bitter when you achieved the treasury position your freshman year, but seeing the events that played out with Lord Grabiner, I think he has since forgiven you for that perceived slight. Yes, I think we are all very glad how that turned out, I reply. But now it seems that the young Mr. Blazing has his own wedding to attend to. I understand that you are disappointed in the events that led to this engagement, as are we all, but you must know that he has been handling this incident with an astounding level of maturity. It's all we can hope for at this point, Oliver says with a sigh. He and Virginia will be married for a year and a day, at which point the contract will be terminated and the Dansons will receive a significant financial contribution, as well as Virginia's continued health care for the rest of her life. I frown at this. Virginia had been really sick as a child. It was why Donald had always been so bitter to her, because her parents had always paid more attention to her and he was too young to know better. They had since made up now that they were older, but Virginia still sometimes missed weeks of class because of her mysterious illness. She had never told me exactly what was wrong, and I had never asked, but I could imagine that caring for a chronic illness was expensive. And, reading between the lines, the Blazings had helped assist in their daughter's care on more than one occasion. That is extremely generous of you, I reply. I am sure that her family appreciates it, although I wonder what your opinions are of their expectations concerning the wedding. As I'm sure you know, they wanted to hold the wedding at Ravane Cottage. The Danson family is big on favors, James explains. You stayed at their house. They would like to now stay at yours. They expect that the hospitality that they extended to you to be returned. My eyes go wide. I hadn't realized this, but wasn't it more or less true? Granted, they were asking for something on a much bigger scale than what they provided me, but I had to admit that they had a point. So, you think it would be discourteous of me not to hold it at Ravane? I ask. Please understand that it is not my house. It is my house as a technicality, but it is really Hieronymous's home. I don't think it needs repeating that he values his privacy, and admitting strangers into one of his favorite homesteads is not something I can rightfully ask of him. And this is a fact that is very much understood, Oliver replies with a nod. We just want you to understand why they seem to consider your involvement in the marriage so strongly. I nod, although I suddenly feel uncomfortable. Virginia is my best friend. I offered to have one of my maids make her a wedding dress. Forgive me for asking, but was that a lapse of social etiquette? Is providing a wedding dress considered to be a poor form of gift? They raise their eyebrows as they glance at each other. Not at all. This is actually the first time we're hearing of this. I can't help but shift in my seat. I informed the Dansons of such when I told them we were unable to provide them use of Ravane. I mentioned that Virginia and Jacob wanted to hold it at the Glen instead, and I believe Minnie has already been making preparations. She has, James replies, and, to answer your question, a dress is an exquisite gift, at least to most girls. I think we can both agree that, while she does appreciate it, the quality of dress she wears that day will be the furthest thing from her mind. Oh, completely, I agree. If they want me to contribute more, I would say I can pick up the tab for food, but I would have to approve financial transactions like that through Hieronymus first. There's no need, Oliver replies. We will cover the wedding expenses. I can't help but shift in my seat again. The last I heard, you got so mad at Virginia's parents insisting that you pay for some big week-long honeymoon that you said you'd stop paying for everything. They glance at each other, and I suddenly get the feeling that they know something I don't. Is this why you wanted to talk to me? I ask. Do you need me to assist you with financial matters? Actually, Tori, James says as he leans forward in his chair, we wanted to speak with you here today because we need you to keep a secret.